Hey folks, thanks for joining us. James here as always. And I've got Mike Eyman here with Nimble Restoration Services, aka the Roofologist. A lot of you guys have seen him around. Mike does an absolutely phenomenal job of positioning himself and his company on social media. So if you're in the DFW area and you don't know who he is, you must have been living under a rock or something. So really glad to have Mike on today. We're going to talk about his business and just the way that things have happened in the roofing industry, some best practices, some nuggets you guys can take away to make smarter decisions when you're interacting with restoration contractors or roofing in general. We're also going to talk about a new role that Mike has taken on, which he'll tell us more about here in a little bit with RCAT, Roofing Contractors Association of Texas. He recently joined their board of directors. And I'd love to hear more about that. So, Mike, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you making time for us. And let's just jump right into this thing, man.
Well, thanks for having me, James. Always looking forward to, telling stories and educating and just really talking shop. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, that's really what this is all about. The last one we had on has been a couple of months ago. I think it was back in September. David Thompson, who I know you know very
Oh, yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I love getting people on and just talking shop. Most of the people watching this are business owners or people in the insurance industry. So there's always a lot of cool stuff that happens, just conversation. So, man, I would love to get some background on you. You've been in the roofing, in the construction industry for a long time. You got a long and tenured career, a whole lot of success that you've experienced. Why don't you just give us a quick recap of who you are and what you do and kind of how you got to this point in your career?
Absolutely. So I started my roofing career back in 2011, coming out of the housing crisis. I was working for a company that was doing foreclosure inspections. It was really not a business. It was designed to fill a void in the market. And so they didn't really know what they were doing. And ultimately, poor management created kind of a financial situation for me. So I was talking to a buddy of mine and roofing came up. And so I applied, got the job, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, from day one, I enjoyed it. Had a back, okay, but hold on, I got a call right there. Had a backup plan just in case, but I mean, I really loved it, and I still love it. I mean, I love it for the fact that I get to be outside all the time, do different things. I get to meet new people, hear different stories. The schedule flexibility is really second to none. You know, I run a full house here. And I mean, ranging from 2.5 to 21. So we just got stuff going on, and I want to be available and present to be that father that I need to be. So and the money's not too shabby, So I mean, over the course of time, just roofing about I think, let's see, 2017, 2016 maybe. I really got tired of hearing the stories that I would every year, people getting taken advantage of, first checks being taken, insurance checks being taken, shoddy work, no work at all. And so I really started down this path of just, hey, look, if I can educate folks, then it's a dual part deal. Like, they'll trust me that I'm the educated guy on the block. And I'm also, even if they don't use me, I've helped them potentially avoid a pitfall from what I call the janky roofer, right? These guys that are out there just to make a quick buck. They have no ties to the community, so their warranty is not worth the paper it's printed on, and they just don't care about workmanship, integrity, just wanting to do a solid job. Because when I talk about roofing, I talk about it as major surgery on somebody's home, which 100% it is. Like, if you botch the roof, everything south of the roof is compromised. And so
last time I checked, everything south of the roof is pretty much the whole house. So
yeah,
it's fairly important.
Short of the foundation, right? So everybody talks about, hey, you got to have a solid foundation, and that is 100% true. But the foundation and the roof, I don't know if I could say which one is more important. Like, you need the firmness of the foundation to build on, but if you don't have a proper roof and it's leaking and it's just it's all holy, well, everything underneath, down to the foundation is jeopardized. So, so that's kind of where I'm at. I was fortunate enough to work with a great company, Absolute Construction, for 6 years. made my way up to managing partner. And about 6 to 7 months ago, I tendered my resignation to pursue, something that I've been wanting to do, for a while now, which is open my own company where I can implement my own tweaks and my own recipe for success. And that's where we're at right now. So Nimble Restoration Services has actually been around for 3 years, but we've only really started doing major business, like regular day-to-day business, within the last 4 months. So that kind of gives you kind of a timeline. So we're launching officially on January 9th. We recently got an office in McKinney right off Industrial and are in the process of renovating it. We're super excited about that.
Awesome.
I'm building a roof, a 3-square roof with a chimney, cutaways, flashing details in my warehouse. And so it's going to be an interesting deal, both for training purposes and then also a backdrop for my videos, because I'm always in the field and I'm always on top of roofs making videos. But if I can make one that's inside where I can control the sound, the lighting, and still have a roof at my disposal, it's going to be a good situation.
You made a couple of points just then that I want to hit on, because you definitely understand how to market, how to position yourself. There's a lot of good roofers out there. There's not too many. You may be the best that I know personally at how to market, how to present the roofing, the restoration stuff for social media. Your brand is just incredibly strong. I'd love to hear from you a little bit on the whole hashtag janky roofer and the roofologist, like the way that you've positioned your brand, because a lot of people watching this are trying to build their own brand presence, their own awareness on social media and digital marketing in general. You've done a phenomenal job of that. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what your mindset is with roofologist and hashtag janky roofer and that sort of stuff that you're doing to increase in your brand?
For sure. So what your audience should know is that your roofologist actually started off as a joke. So I don't know if you know, but we used to do pre-COVID, we used to do networking events all the time, like multiples a month. And one of those was a Taco Tuesday event, which was catered to realtors. And so I can't remember the exact day or even the situation video that I made, but I made one and I introduced myself as your DFW roofologist, right? And it was kind of meant just like incites a little bit of laugh or something like that. Well, as fate would have it, this was on a Monday, I think, and I went the next Tuesday or the next day, and several of the realtors that had seen my video, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love that." And so, I was like, well, okay, well, I'll continue it. And then it really kind of just took on, not necessarily a life of its own, but, I really started putting some time and energy and thinking about structuring things. And then, well, the roofologist has to have an arch nemesis. So I came up with the janky roofer. And I used the janky roofer kind of moniker and hashtag to really not even call anybody by name, but just basically say, hey, these guys fit in this category, the janky roofers. And I just point out their workmanship.
Yeah.
As it's a faceless thing.
Every good hero needs a boogeyman.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The antagonist in the story.
For sure.
So,
and
awesome.
So as far as making content, I know that by the time everybody sees the video, it probably looks reasonably polished, or like I'm just like a one-take wonder. But for anybody watching, I need them to understand that, by the time it makes its way to YouTube or Facebook, we're probably 4 to 7 takes in. And that's me, having a little, fit on top of the roof because I'm walking the same path because I bumble over my words or I say something that I don't feel is going to be interpreted correctly. So I'm really cognizant of that. And I think my OCD kind of ends up being my Achilles heel. But in the end, I guess what I'm trying to get at is it to be a one-hit wonder or one take wonder. It's probably slim to none. It's going to take a lot of practice. And I'm still, even my videographer and I, who, he walks around and shoots and things like that. Even having worked with him for the time that we have, which is going on a little over a year now, I still have those moments where I'm just like, oh, I stop on a word and I want to retake it. But what he's really ingrained in me is that the audience is too broad to appease to everybody. So you're gonna have people that either don't agree or just hating or whatever. And he's like, and then you're gonna have those people that really are sucked in and they enjoy it. They're getting value out of it. He's like, so you need not to worry about everybody. Just get the information across. And so, that's easier said than done, but I'm working on it.
Awesome, man. I love that. What does your team look like? Is this, you have like marketing people, you mentioned your videographer now, for someone who's wanting to get started with video production, who sees the value in creating good content for their business, any best practices in how to get started down that road?
Well, I mean, if you're in a situation where you can afford to get a video editor, a videographer and a video editor to make those polished transitions and things like that, I mean, there's a polished video is just, to me, it's well put together, it's better, there's more of a storyline. If you don't, I mean, grab a little I got one around here somewhere, and grab a little gimbal or something like that and just start shooting yourself, just and that's really how it all started. I started doing selfie videos on top of roofs, showcasing all the bad stuff I was seeing, because the one thing is that the janky roofer knows that the average homeowner is not going to get on the roof, so they're not going to see. So my videos were a way for me to show the workmanship. And so I guess the best advice is to just get in front of a camera. Just get in front of it. If you're looking to get into video, just pull the trigger, get in front. Make sure you have something legitimate to say. I mean, because I see some of these guys, there are a lot, like you said, there are a lot of great roofers out there, and there are a lot of good guys that are trying to get into video, but they're not saying anything. Like they're walking around the roof, and you got the video of their under chin, and it's not really saying anything, so it's not capturing. Yeah. So, make sure you have something to say, even if it's a nuance of something. It's something that could help, a nugget. Yeah.
No, definitely. So we talked about this a little bit before. Obviously, I do a lot of commercial insurance. We work with a lot of policyholders, and insurance is integrally to the roofing process. I'd love to hear from you some, maybe either way you want to go, like common mistakes you see people making, or just stay all on the positive side of best practices for how to engage in the insurance process when it comes to roofing and just restoration in general.
So, common mistake, and I ran into it 2 weeks ago. COVID hit. Everybody's worried about money. This gentleman in particular down in Dallas called his insurance to get a lower premium. And because he got a lower premium, obviously it's a balancing act. So you take one from the other, it's going somewhere else. Well, he now has a 3% deductible. And I had to break that, like, dude, you have damage. You have fresh damage that would have been covered with a 1% deductible, but because, I mean, your situation is your situation, but insurance is one of those things where, just like your roof, you don't skimp out on it. You make sure you're covered. And his 3% deductible now makes it to where he's self-insured. Like he has insurance technically, but he has no insurance, like, because the roof costs almost within a couple grand of how much his deductible is. So even if the insurance were to come out, pay for the whole thing, he may get $1,000, maybe,
Yeah. And then he's got a ding on his record for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, puts him in a bad spot. And then also cosmetic waivers or exclusions. I'm actually going to be making a video about this coming up, just kind of those pitfalls, like, hey, you don't think it's much. You're like, oh, it's cosmetic waiver. I got a metal roof. It's cosmetic waiver. But a lot of people don't understand what that means. It means that your metal roof could be pummeled, but if it doesn't have functional damage or fish mouthing or some other functional damage, they don't know you for it. So it's really just your policy and really having an agent that is an immersive, like your people in your office, where you call them, you educate them, because I've seen your videos, so that's what they need to do. They need to call their agent. They need to get a breakdown of everything that's in their policy, deductibles, coverages, exclusions, waivers, whatever.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to have that uncomfortable conversation with them when it comes time that they have legitimate damage. And hey guys, like, you made a swap and that swap was a bad swap.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more on the insurance side of things. It is so important that the savvy policyholder is making a good choice with the office that they work with. And we have this conversation so often. Yeah, I want a good quote. It's like, okay, yeah, the quote's important, but the office that you're working with is so much more important than the product that you're purchasing. To your point with the cosmetic waivers, man, a lot of carriers do not want to take that off the policy. A lot of them just aren't willing to. In general, it takes a very well equipped and an educated insurance broker who knows the market to know if someone has a metal roof. Well, we need to avoid those 4 carriers over there because they will not take the exclusion
Yeah.
off for
I mean,
cosmetic damage. So,
from,
yeah,
from an insurance perspective, I get it. They
yeah,
run a business. I mean, they're taking heavy losses, especially, I mean, I wouldn't even say losses. They're paying out a bunch. You
yeah,
know, they're paying out a bunch, billions every year just in North Texas, or almost every year. So, I mean, I get it. But by the same token, you know, our job, you know, in 2 different spheres, but one that is kind of conjoined, is to educate people on the insurance process, both upfront, leading up to where they have to talk to me. That's you saying,
yeah.
hey, are you got your deductible in line? You got your cosmetic waivers or not? Okay, cool. Now I can take them from damage to renewed.
Yeah.
So
Man, when the deductible thing, especially in DFW, being in a catastrophe mitigation area because of all the hail, I mean, it has become very challenging in the last couple of years because so many carriers are moving to mandatory 2% deductibles. And, just getting the policyholder, your customer, exactly the right fit, the right coverage options. So they're not coming out of pocket, 6, 8, 10 grand
yeah,
to do a roof. It's like playing 3-dimensional chess, it feels like. So yeah, man, you and I are playing the same game on different sides. It's really interesting.
yeah.
So
But
anything else there on the insurance best practices side before we move on to RCAT?
not really. I mean, you know, it just, when it comes to the insurance, that's really your department, or brokers and agents like yourself, because by the time I'm talking to them, it's too late. Like, the storm's
Yeah,
already there. So really, my job and challenge after that is to find a financing program through a third party company, or or something. Just, or maybe, figuring out a repairable solution. Hey, can we repair it? Like, you don't really, you have insurance, they'd probably buy the roof, but you have junk insurance. Like, you have
yeah.
3%, with a whole bunch of other stuff fluff in there that got you a low premium. And so now the challenge is on me. But we navigate it as best we can. I mean, while still being above board and best practice.
I remembered the question that we talked about before with House Bill 2102 being law now in Texas. And there's a lot of people that are watching this video that are from outside of Texas. So this part won't apply to you. But House Bill 2102 was passed, was it 19 or was it 18? 19. So it's been the law a little more than a year now in Texas. And the whole point of that was to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse with regards to insurance deductibles and the restoration and roofing process. How are you guys communicating this to your customers in a way that is not just, well, we used to could do that, but now we can't? Like, explaining the rationale, the reasoning behind, no, I'm not going to buy your deductible, and here's why. Like, how are you guys engaging with the policyholders in Texas when it comes to 2102?
Well, I mean, honestly, at this point, my team and I go out there and assume that people already know. Like, oh yeah, oh, Mr. Homeowner, yeah, all you're out of pocket here is your deductible. I just go ahead and assume, because it should be that way. And
Yeah,
then if they push back, then we go into, okay, look, it's illegal. It's a misdemeanor. And I love all my homeowners, but I'm not willing to go to jail or get any sort of ding on my record just to make a buck. That's just
yeah,
that's not what we're about. And I said, secondly, to that point, I was like, this is the value that we're bringing. Okay. I'm not just some, chuck in a truck guy that's going to come up here and slap up a roof. I'm going to educate you on the whole process. We're going to do ventilation calculations to make sure that your ventilation's up to speed. We're going to do all the stuff that we need to do to get this done. So it's not just hey, I'm gonna get a cheeseburger and fries. No, we're going to evaluate this. What do you want? And what do you want? And what can I deliver? And what's the best practice to go in there? And building that value, obviously you're going to lose some, because some people are just, I don't want to pay it. And, I'm going to find somebody that does, and I don't care about the value. But the reality here, and this is what I tell my team members when they come to me and they're like, hey, I lost this deal because this guy can't pay his deductible. I'm like, he was never your client. He was never your client. Like, I'm sorry, but I mean, that's just the reality. It's, I understand when House Bill 2102 came out, I battled with it a little bit. I'm 100% on board. I'm going that direction, but I'm saying, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, man, this kind of hurts, some people, and it does. But like I was talking to you about the video, like, you can't please everybody. Like, there's a lot of just janky stuff, and that's for a time that was all I showcased. Now I do a little bit of everything. I do product reviews and showcases and other stuff, but I still really, at my core, I see a lot out there. So it was really as a way to help curb, the just negative stuff that was going on in the industry. Nothing's perfect. And I tell people all the time, nothing's perfect, but I firmly believe in RCAT and the mission and what they're trying to achieve, going down and trying to get these House bills put together. I had no idea. And I would imagine that a large portion of your audience probably doesn't understand the difficulty in getting a bill passed, like, seen. Like, it's just, I speak to Paul and Sarah Raymond, Sarah being the executive director of the organization. And she's like, people just don't even know. They don't even know. They have no idea how difficult it is. Have them see it, and then, go even further, go the distance, and have it happen. Have it happen.
Well, and just to get the bill recorded on the docket of a committee, just to have it be looked at by a committee. And I've been in the insurance world a little more than 8 years now. I've been to Austin quite a few times representing various, clients, policyholder, and industry lobbying groups. People think of lobbyists as this big negative word. All it really is someone who goes to Austin or DC to talk to a lawmaker, a policy maker, and advocating on behalf of a constituent group. So
Right.
You and I are definitely birds of a feather when it comes to the value of being engaged in the legislative process. But I couldn't agree more. How many people don't understand the basic process of how a bill becomes law? But for something like House Bill 2102, I mean, the public comment period was like 4 months. It was open, and everybody from here to Timbuktu was invited to speak into it.
I mean, well, it got passed in 19, but I'd have to go back with Sarah and check on this. But I mean, they've been pursuing it for 2, I think, to get to her. So, and you spoke earlier and, mentioned board of directors. It's not actually the board of directors that I was nominated for. I was actually nominated to serve on the public relations and marketing committee for RCAT.
Okay. My mistake. Sorry, man. I gave you a little bit too much credit. I'm sure you'll be on the board of directors at some point, though. You're one of these ambitious guys.
Yeah. But I think it's really speaks to what I do anyways. Public relations. I mean, I've already gone out and met with two contractor companies that, as a result of the post, making the announcement about my nomination, have reached out saying, hey, I want to be part of RCAT. Like, what do I need to do? And obviously, awesome. Go in, if I'm going to be sponsoring these guys, I got to go in and I know them. But we have lunch. We talk about, just what they're looking to get out of RCAT and what the takeaways are and so on and so forth. And I'm really hitting the ground running. I'm loving it. But and then, the marketing side, I mean, it's just, it really blended with what I'm already doing. So
awesome. A lot of contractors watch my stuff on YouTube and Facebook. They're probably our biggest viewership group outside of people that own insurance agencies. I love being engaged in trade associations that we serve, business verticals. Roofers and just construction contractors in general are my single biggest business vertical of all the stuff that we're into. Being in RCAT was a no-brainer for me. because they do so much work on behalf of the roofing and construction industry in Texas. I'm really proud that there's only 6 insurance offices that are Texas based. You know, Marsh has a membership, but I mean, they're a national brokerage, obviously. There's only 6 Texas based companies that do insurance that are members of RCAT, and Riskwall is one of those 6. It was a no-brainer for me. From your perspective, for the contractor, the small business owner who looks at membership and goes, man, that's a little expensive. Why should I be joining RCAT? What are the real benefits to me? How do you answer that question? Why should someone join in and jump in with RCAT and not just be a member on paper, but be an engaged member, someone who's, you know, representing their company to RCAT and just being a part of the process?
I'm glad you asked, because that's the meat and potatoes here. So my push in RCAT is, when it comes to when people mention money, I'm like, well, it's less than $1,000. If you're running a business, a roofing business, and you can't find $1,000 for marketing, $1,000 marketing dollars for the entire year, you really need to evaluate your situation. I mean, you know, from the hip, you just need to evaluate it. And I said, you know, a lot of people, some people, you know, dismiss BBB. I'm a member of the BBB, A+ rating. I love the BBB. I have no problem with them. You know, I advertise it. My consumers like seeing it. My clients like seeing it, and it's a great organization so far as I've experienced. And so it's kind of the same thing, because some people knock BBB, whereas people like me embrace it. It's one of those things that I'm trying to bring peace of mind to my clients. It's a voluntary license. It's not state mandated. But to me, I tell people, like, hey, look, I'm not licensed because I have to be. I'm licensed because I want to be. And although I'm a realist, and knowing that there is undoubtedly at least one person, one bad egg in the RCAT organization, I feel pretty confident in saying that 99, probably +% of the people involved are there with the integrity that is needed to really offer legitimately that peace of mind, right? They're there because they want to be, not because the state says, hey, bureaucratic, hey, you got to pay X amount of dollars to be a part of this club, right? This license. So I think it looks better, you know. And I get other contractors, because I talk to everybody, right? And I get some contractors that are like, I just don't want any part of it. You know, it's not state mandated, and until it is, it's voluntary. I'm like, well, again, it is, and I'll go back to this. It is voluntary, but it's you saying, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I've jumped through this additional hoop. I've gone through a 3-part practical testing. I have had to get sponsored by another active and in good standing member of the organization. I've had to submit documentation, financials, to show that I am legitimately doing business, and I'm filing taxes, and I'm doing all this stuff. And I have to sign a code of ethics that says, hey, I'm not a dirtbag. And if I do you wrong, well, then I'm kicked out of the club. I mean, with all these things, you know, again, it's not a state mandated thing. And I make sure to let my clients know that it is a voluntary license. It's not state mandated, but I use that as leverage. It's like, I'm not made to have it.
Yeah.
I have it. I want to be on the leading edge of positive change. And this is the avenue that I've chosen to help in communicating to you, Mr. Homeowner, that you're dealing with a real deal. The worry can go away, because even problem in our situation, in our construction, because it happens, I will take care of it. My company will take care of it, because my reputation and my name in this town, I say this town, means a lot to me. And so I get really, you know, passionate about that. I kind of just a second ago, but I mean, at the end of the day, man, I just want to do good work. I want to provide for my family, and I love making videos.
Yeah,
you
man.
know? Yeah.
You know, you mentioned the licensing thing, and for, you know, anyone watching this who isn't aware, maybe you're outside of Texas or just not familiar with some of the specifics. The roofing trade and general construction across the board is one of the very few skilled trades in Texas that doesn't have any licensing requirements of any kind. Which, as someone who Riskwell operates in 27 states currently, Texas is the only state in all of the states that we operate in that has absolutely no licensing of any kind required for a roofing company. What's your position on that? I know you're not a lobbyist in this regard for legislative affairs for RCAT or anything like that. I think I know what your answer is going to be, but should every roofing contractor that operates in the state of Texas be required and state regulated to carry a business license?
So I am an advocate for licensing, but I'm also cognizant of bureaucratic involvement. So I'm not saying that every person should get a license no matter what. What I'm saying is that there should be something in place, like a register, something to be in place to where if this person goes off and takes advantage of this person, they can't do business anymore. Like that person, not just the name, not just this guy that has some bad reviews and goes changes his name and starts doing business under another assumed name. I'm talking about, no, you cannot do business anymore. That's what I think should happen. Because I think the word license really has, I mean, it's broad, like what that entails. And so I don't necessarily want to put a blanket, stamp or whatever on it. I'd like to see how it's worded, but essentially what we need is accountability. We need contractors to be in a situation where, if they screw up, if they screw up and they don't fix it and it's legitimately their issue, well, then there's repercussions that the homeowner can take, that aren't available realistically right now. So
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Man,
but just kind of keeping with that, I think that the not having any sort of regulation in Texas is absolutely bizarre considering that you have to have a license to cut hair, drive a motor vehicle. I mean, we're doing, again, major surgery on people's homes. Like we're doing stuff that, it's not brain surgery here, but I mean, it's roofing, but it's so important to the integrity of the home, the envelope. Like we're trying to make sure it's a sealed envelope. You saw minor little tears, and next thing you know, we're talking thousands of dollars in interior damage, hardwood floors. I mean, the list could go on and on depending on the severity of it,
Yeah. Well, when you go down the list of all the other trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So many different trades are state mandated to have some kind of professional licensing with accountability. Within electrical, for instance, journeyman, versus apprenticing and master certified, like they even have levels of licensing. And within the roofing world, there's no way for the average consumer to see someone, to look up a business and know if your average chuck in the truck is any different than your company or any other, legitimate professional roofing contractor. There's no way to tell the difference.
And that's why I'm an advocate for RCAT. Again, I stress to even contractors that are like, I'm not with that. I'm like, well, you don't have to be with that, but I mean, it's like, why not? I guess I guess it's less than $1,000. If you can't pass the practical test, or you can't pass the financial background check, or you can't get somebody legitimate to sponsor you, well, that's another issue. But if you can have all those things already in place and you just don't want to because you're sticking to your guns because, it's not mandated. Well, I think with all due respect to those guys that are listening that maybe, take advantage of this, you just got to get off your high horse. I mean, it's less than $1,000. Consider it like money that you would pump out the door for pay-per-click, but in this case, you actually get to use that at the kitchen table saying, hey, Mrs. Homeowner, I understand that you have a lot of options, 5,000 roofing companies on just ballpark number in North Texas. I was like, you have a lot of options. I'd like to narrow down those options by giving you the opportunity to work with somebody that has a voluntary license that has gone through all the steps to ensure that that you're dealing with a real deal. I can't really say enough about it. Again, it's not perfect, but it's doing good work, and it's forward motion. And so anybody that doesn't see that, I think is just kind of, stuck in their ways, and it's okay. I mean, I'm not dismissing them. I don't have anything bad to say about them. I believe in what RCAT's trying to do. The state's not doing it. So, I mean, leave it to privatized organization to do it. I mean,
no, man, I love where your heart's at on that. It's obvious that this is a passionate subject for you, and that's always great when you can connect with someone's, the care, the why, so to speak. If someone wants to get a hold of you for RCAT, for business inquiries, and they want to know more about you or Nimble or whatever else you've got going on, what's the best way for them to connect with you, other than obviously, here on Facebook, or I'd love to know your YouTube channel, phone, email, whatever you want to share for people.
Yeah, definitely. So I use the platforms Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Not really much of a Twitter fan. I technically have an account, but don't look for a whole bunch of information on there. My direct line is 469-422-4106. And then if you want to reach out to the business, it's 1-833-NIMBLE1. Nimble and then the number 1.
Okay. And what's your YouTube channel and your Instagram handle?
So on Instagram, it's your_roofologist. And then on YouTube, it's just your roofologist, same as it is over at Facebook.
Sweet. Awesome, man. Any last thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Check your insurance policies, guys. Call your agent, call James, call his team, because you don't want to be having a conversation with me with the reality that you now have a $10,000 deductible and your roof's worth $9,000.
Man,
that's what I'm going to leave. That's what I'm going to leave your audience with.
If you have a janky insurance broker.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Dude.
Oh, man.
Again, use janky in front of everything. I see janky brickwork, janky plumbing, my push is for roofing. So I don't really go down that rabbit hole, but like you said, man, there are just guys that are out there just to write policies and have no engagement. And then there are people that legitimately care, check in, advise their clients to call them instead of, before they call the hotline, which I think, creates that involvement and that culture. That's really important to me.
Absolutely. So. I couldn't agree more. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Folks, this is Mike Eyman with Nimble Restoration Services. He is your roofologist. For me, you guys know me. James, if you need to reach out, it's 469-678-8001 here at the office. You can reach us at info@riskwell.com. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Wednesday Winners. And that's it, boys and girls. Life is risky. Risk well.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks. And we're done recording there. And yeah, that's it, man.